Hello and welcome to a brand new video. Today I would like to recommend you books on Christianity, and I've chosen about 7 books or so, and each book to tackle its own specific subject. So I've chosen books on Christology, I've chosen books on the text of the New Testament, I've chosen books about the canon of the New Testament, a general introduction to the New Testament, the early Christian history, the church history, and I've also chosen books about Jesus and about Paul. And so hopefully with these 7 books, and each book's dedicated to tackle its own subjects or so, should give you the basic foundation to know Christianity from an academic perspective. The only thing missing here is books on theology, because I've not read enough books on theology to recommend you books on theology, because I know there are a lot of good books on theology, Christian theology out there that I've not read. Okay, it's in my back order, meaning in my reading list to read within the year 2022 or so. So hopefully by the end of the year 2022, I would have read a number of Christian theology books, and then I'll do a separate video back then. So these are the books that I've read and used, and so I would like to recommend them to you. And also these are the books that have been recommended by a lot of different scholars out there, as well as book reviewers, and so I would like to include them also and recommend them to you. So first things first, I will begin with a general introduction on the New Testament. This should covers you basically the history of the New Testament era, so mostly within the first century of the Christian era. So, and there are many books out there about based on introduction to the New Testament. There are many books out there about this topic, and I've read 5 or 6 of them, and there are a lot of good ones that I'm yet to read, and it's in my reading list for 2022 also. But from what I've read, for me, Raymond Brown is a fantastic one to read. Okay, Raymond Brown, this is the Abridged edition. Okay, the Abridged edition. I do have the full text, but I will not recommend to you, because this video is aimed towards people who doesn't have any idea about Christianity, okay, and who wants to learn about Christianity. And so Raymond Brown, the Abridged edition. Okay, this is published by Yale University Press. It is part of the Yale Anchor Bible commentary series. This is by the late Father Raymond Brown. This is about 300 pages or so. And the one good thing about this book is that it has like boxes like this. I'm sorry if you can't see, but boxes like this. And this will give you a summary of what the book is about. And each chapter is only about less than 10 pages or so. And so a very, very short chapter, because this is a abridged version. It has a total of 37 chapters and 2 appendix. So it could be quite overwhelming to you. But trust me, this is not really overwhelming at all. But Raymond Brown is widely regarded as the father of Christian scholar, and a lot of great scholars have recommended his book, and so I would like to recommend them to you also. This was written about 20 years ago. In 1997 it finished, and Raymond Brown passed away in 1998. But the studies, the materials in this book is pretty much still very relevant today. From what I've known, because I've read the full magnum opus by Raymond Brown, the complete text, it is still very relevant today. In fact, the book is written in a sense whereby even 50 or 60 years from now, unless the historical methods have been changed, the book will still be relevant even for 50 or 60 years down the road. So Introduction to the New Testament, abridged version by Raymond Brown, is the first book I recommend to you. Now we will move on. Once you get an overall picture about Christianity, or at least the books of the New Testament, then it's time for you to know the history Okay, the history, because the history is very much tied closely together with the books of the New Testament. And so I would like to recommend you two books when it comes to Christian history. The first is by Henry Chadwick. Okay, The Early Church. Okay, by Henry Chadwick. This is a fantastic book, really fantastic book. It covers up to the time of Thomas Aquinas, so about 900 to 1000 of the Common Era also. And this is by Penguin. Okay, this book is really easy to read. It's also about 300 pages long, but I'm telling you, the read is very smooth. It covers the important figures in the early church, like Origen, okay, like Tertullian, Irenaeus, all these church fathers that you need to know if you want to know about the history of Christianity. And so I'm recommending you this book on church history. Now, the other book on church history that I would like to recommend you is very comprehensive. At first I thought about, maybe I should not recommend this, but then again, it has to be recommended. This is by Diarmaid MacCulloch, I believe a Scottish professor. And this book is called A History of Christianity. Look at how thick this is. This book, comparing it, look at how thick this is. I think this is Professor MacCulloch's magnum opus, simply his magnum opus, besides some of his other writings as well. But yeah, The History of the Church by Penguin. Both of these are from Penguin. And Penguin always came up with these wonderful things, and I'm glad they did. This one could be a bit expensive. At least I paid about $50 for it, maybe less than it, slightly less than that. This one is really cheap. It's about $30, and so it is. Again, read this one first, or if you just want to buy one, then buy this one. If you only want one book, if you only want to own one book about church history, then this is the book that I recommend you. It covers Christianity and Islam, Christianity in the East, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Syrian Church, and the Western Church, so on and so forth. So it has a lot of coverage there. Spend some time to read this. A very great book. And certain passage, I have to be honest with you, certain parts of the book is not an easy read, but the other parts of the book are very smooth sailing, and so I recommend this to you. So now out of the way, you've learned, now that you know about the books on the New Testament and the early church, the next thing you want to read is you want to know, how do you get the books of the New Testament? Okay, how do you get the books of the New Testament? Because the New Testament is made out of 27 books, but is it only 27 books all along? Okay, and so you need to know the different books of the New Testament and how the books were put together and it became the New Testament that we have today. There are many great books out there, and the best one that I've read, at least, okay, is by Bruce Metzger. Okay, this is the Canon of the New Testament. Okay, Origin, Development, and what's the last one? Significance. Yes, Origin, Development, and Significance. This is by Oxford University Press. Again, this is by Oxford University Press. And this book was written in the 90s. A fantastic book. Fantastic book. It has a lot of great reviews out there. Again, this book is about 300 pages long. Okay, majority of the books I'm recommending you is around 300 pages long. And this one has a lot of footnotes in it. Okay, almost every page has a footnote, and some people might skip the footnote, but I would recommend you actually read the footnote, because actually much of the discussion is actually in the footnote, which is a surprising thing, but that's just how Bruce Metzger rolls. If I've read a couple of books from Bruce Metzger, and majority of the time his discussion is actually in the footnotes, whereas the normal text is actually what people want to hear. But how do you get this information? is normally discussed in the footnotes. I'm just surprised that he doesn't include that in his original, in his narrative. He have left it a lot in the footnotes, as well as recommending books in the footnote as well. And so that is, actually something not a lot of authors actually do. Now that you've known how the books of the New Testament came to be, now you want to know the text of the New Testament, okay? Because the books is different from the text, okay? It is a separate study. And so the text of the New Testament, okay, is another book by Bruce Metzger, the best out there, the best out there. The text of the New Testament, its transmission, corruption, and restoration. Yes, the New Testament have been corrupted. Okay, this is a scholarly opinion. This is not my opinion. And again, this is by Oxford University Press. So it is a scholarly work, and I know a lot of people will not agree on this. Again, a fantastic read, a fantastic book, a lot of footnotes. And so read the footnotes, guys. Don't skip the footnote. You don't have to read every footnote, because some footnotes are just reference to some writings from church fathers, so on and so forth. But you need to refer to the writings of the church fathers to know. But the discussion is mostly on the footnote, which is very surprising. Not a lot of authors does this. And so the text of the New Testament. Okay. Now we've come to the final three subjects, which is Christology, Jesus, and Paul. There are many books on Christology out there, and a couple of them that I own are very comprehensive. And so I'm afraid to recommend them to you. But out of the ones that I own that is very easy to digest, very, very easy to digest, is by Christopher Tuckett. Okay, very short book, about 150 pages, narrative also. Christology and the New Testament, Jesus and his earliest followers, by Christopher Tuckett. Really, this is by Westminster John Knox Press. Again, another scholarly production, okay, scholarly publication. It is not that long also. Again, a lot of these works are very, very easy. The narrative is like, once you start reading, you wouldn't want to put the book down. That's how well written these books are really are. So, and there are a couple of books that might get boring, or certain pages might get really boring. But for the most part, I will not say all the books that I'm going to recommend you, but for the most part, they're very smooth sailing, especially books by Bruce Metzger. Bruce Metzger is just a talented author. Very, very easy, smooth sailing, as well as books by Diarmaid MacCulloch. Sometimes I wonder how did these people actually are able to write in such a fantastic prose and discuss topics that might seem very boring, because the text of the New Testament, it is absolutely boring, but it is written in such a way that is easy to understand, is easy to digest. And so reading these books were very fun to me, and I'll read them again. So this time, Christopher Tuckett and Christology and the New Testament. Okay. So now we are left with two subjects: the book about the historical Jesus and books about Paul. Now there are many books about these two. Thousands of books have been written over the years, and I've not read all of them. But I'm going to recommend you some of the books that I actually do not have with me at the moment. Okay, so I can't show you the physical copy, but we're going to get to that. So books on Paul, there are many books on Paul. Books written by E.P. Saunders, by N.T. Wright, a lot of books written by Paul. But I'll recommend you one of the best that I've read. And the scholar that wrote this book is one of my favorite scholars. She's a fantastic author. She explained how she get the information, because a lot of these scholars, when they wrote books, they just present you information as it is, but they never tell you how they get to that point. Okay, but it is not the case with Paula Fredriksen. Paul the Pagan Apostle by Paula Fredriksen, a very, very brilliant and distinguished scholar. I own all her books except for two. One is a commentary, included. One is like a chapter she wrote in a compilation of works, and one is, I think it's a commentary that I don't really have. So Paul the Pagan Apostle by Yale University Press. Okay, written by Paula Fredriksen. Fantastic read, really fantastic read. About 200 pages long narrative. The rest are all footnotes. Yes, I read some of her footnotes whereby she discussed the Greek text. This is not the right translation of the NRSV, the RSV. She seems to quote a lot from the NRSV as well as the RSV. She never quotes from a lot from different Bible, but her favorite texts were RSV and NRSV, maybe because it is the gold standard for academic, maybe. But yeah, I use the NRSV, so that's not a problem. So yeah, she actually showed how she get the information, not just present you as it is, but she actually showed you how she get it. And so this is what I really enjoy reading, because I want to know, how do you get that? It's like doing math, how do you get a formula? The formula has been discussed and presented, but how do you actually do the equation? This is what I want to know. And you always get that from Paula Fredriksen. Okay, always get that. And so really recommend. Now, books on the historical Jesus. I'll recommend you books that I do not own at the moment. Okay, I don't have the physical copy. E.P. Sanders. Books on Jesus written by E.P. Sanders. Really, that is the gold standard. The gold standard of historical Jesus. Now, there is one more book that is written at a very, very high scholarly level. And I still want to recommend this book to you, because it is important. It is very, very important. And this book is Jesus, okay, the Apocalyptic prophet of the Millennium, by Professor Bart Ehrman. I enjoy Professor Bart Ehrman's work. Professor Ehrman's work is really easy to read. Again, published by Oxford University Press. About 300 pages long or so, not that difficult to digest. 250 pages actually, less 50 page. Not difficult to digest, and also not, I just want to say it's not too comprehensive, but it is actually, it is comprehensive actually, but not something that is difficult for you to swallow. This is actually the Los Angeles Times book of the year for the year 2000. This was written in 1999, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and I've read a lot from Professor Ehrman's book. I own a lot of them. I've read them. I have some e-books as well that I read. Again, these are all scholarly works, and I know that people who are not into academic will completely disagree with all the writings of these scholars. Okay, all the writing of these scholars, the ones that I'm recommending you here, majority of the people here would not agree with them, and some people would find them radical even. But if you choose to disagree with these scholars, you should provide your own evidence. You should have a reason why you disagree with them. Just because some of them are actually atheists, that wrote about Christianity. Obviously, as a believer, you will be skeptical about their writings, but really read them and hear what they have to say, because majority of them actually provide evidence as to their writings, even though they can be interpreted in various ways, but they are scholars for a reason. And these books that are published by university presses, they all have undergone through vetting process. They have been checked and thoroughly checked and before they are being published, and so they do have some academic academic scholastic genuinity there. And so it is not just books that are published by people and then with a lot of wrong or mistaken information. So that's why I recommend them, and that's why I read books that are published by academic presses. I don't tend to read books that are not published by academic presses unless from reputable publications, like Penguin, for example, like HarperCollins, for example, like Ehrman's, for example, and a couple of other places and publishers. So hopefully these books will accompany you for 2022, as some of the books will accompany me in 2022. And yeah, enjoy reading, and do read some of the books I recommend, or read all of them, because they're all from reputable authors and scholars. All of them are scholars. They're not only authors, but all of them are scholars also. So out of these 7 or so books that I have, if I count correctly, so what is my favorite? My favorite is actually by Raymond Brown. So this is my favorite, just in case you're wondering. So I'm just giving you this information. It's not an easy read. In fact, not the easiest read out of the books that I've just shown you, but it is my favorite because I think Raymond Brown is on a whole different level when it comes to scholarship. Alright, my name is Arfad, and hopefully you find this video useful, and yeah, happy reading. See you next time.